All right, you want to start coding? Let's do it. We're going to take what's usually your first hour learning Python and crunch it down into just 5 minutes. By the end of this, you'll be set up, you'll have written your very first program, and you'll get the big ideas that make it all click.
So let's start with a kind of weird question. How do you tell a computer a joke? Now, this isn't a setup for a punchline. The answer actually gets to the very heart of why programming languages even exist. See, computers are, well, they're super literal. They don't get sarcasm, they don't get hints. You have to give them instructions in a super specific, precise language they can understand.
And that's really the core idea, right? I mean, think about it. We use languages like English or Hindi to talk to each other. Well, we use programming languages to give those crystal clear, exact instructions to a computer. And the language we're going to focus on today is Python.
Okay, so you might be wondering, out of all the different languages out there, why Python? What's the big deal? Why is it pretty much the language everyone recommends for beginners?
Well, it really comes down to 3 huge things. First off, it's what's called a high-level language. All that means is that the code actually looks a lot like plain English, which makes it way easier to read and write. Second, it's totally free and open source, no barriers to entry. And third, and this is a big one, it has a massive ecosystem. Think of it like a giant public library, but instead of books, it's full of pre-written code that lets you do incredible things without having to build everything from the ground up.
Okay, that's enough theory. Let's get our hands dirty. We're going to get you set up to actually write some code. And I promise, this part is so much easier than it sounds.
It's basically a 3-step process. First, you download Python from the official website, python.org. Then you'll install a code editor. Think of it like Microsoft Word, but for code. VS Code is a great one. But hang on. Look at step 2. This little checkbox is, and I'm not kidding, crucially important.
Seriously, I cannot stress this enough. When you're installing Python, you're going to see this little checkbox that says Add Python to Path. You have to check this box. It might seem small, but what it does is it tells your whole computer, hey, this is where Python lives, and it will save you from a world of frustration and headaches down the road. Just trust me. Check the box.
Okay, setup is done. Now for the fun part, the magic moment. This is where you actually tell the computer to do something, and it listens. Let's write your very first line of code.
And here it is. Print hello world. This is like a rite of passage. Every programmer starts here. All it does is it tells the computer to print the words hello world onto the screen. That's it. It seems so simple, but think about what just happened. You gave the computer an instruction, and it did exactly what you said. It's your program's very first word.
Okay, next up is a core concept called a variable. Now, don't let the technical name scare you. It's super simple. A variable is just a container, a box. Think about your kitchen. You have a box labeled sugar, right? And one for flour. You put stuff in them so you can find it later. That's exactly what a variable is in code.
So let's see how this actually looks. If you write name equals Harry, all you're doing is putting the text Harry into a box that you've labeled name. Simple. Same thing with age equals 25, you're just putting the number 25 into a box labeled age. So then, later, when you tell the computer to print name, it just goes, okay, where's that name box? It looks inside and shows you whatever's in there.
All right, so you've told the computer what to do, you've stored information. Now we get to Python's real superpower. This is the thing that makes it an absolute game changer.
Remember that giant public library of code I mentioned earlier? Well, it's packed with something called modules. Think of modules as toolkits, or bundles of code that other people have already written and perfected. So going back to our joke example, you don't have to be a comedic genius to make your program funny. You just need to borrow the right toolkit from the library.
And the best part is how easy it is to use these. You just open up a little program on your computer called the terminal. It's like a command prompt. And you type one simple line, pip install pyjokes. That's it. Pip is basically Python's app store. It goes online, finds that pyjokes toolkit, and installs it for you. Literally in seconds. And after that one command, you add maybe 2 more lines to your own code to actually use it, and boom! Your program can now tell you a cheesy programming joke. You see what happened there? You didn't write any of the jokes yourself. You just stood on the shoulders of the entire Python community. That is what makes this so powerful.
And that's it. In just a few minutes, we've gone on a whirlwind tour of what is normally your first hour with Python. So let's just take a second and recap everything you just accomplished.
Think about this.
You started from scratch. You now understand why we even need programming languages. You installed all the tools you need. You wrote your first real instruction and made the computer listen. You learned how to store information using variables, and, maybe the coolest part, you tapped into the power of the Python community to use code someone else wrote. That's a ton of ground to cover.
Look, the big takeaway here is that you've already cleared the hardest hurdle, which is just getting started. From a simple hello world all the way to using community code to tell a joke, you've actually touched on all the fundamental ideas of programming. You've done it. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build next?